It's just a formality for the refinance, Mom. The bank needs your signature since your name is on the deed. Sign here and here. My son Thomas pointed at the marked lines, a Mont Blanc pen extended toward me. I trusted him completely. Why wouldn't I? He was my firstborn, the executor of my will, the one who managed my finances since my husband died. He had an MBA and worked in real estate. He knew what he was doing. I signed without reading the fine print. Has your family member ever asked you to sign something quickly without explaining the details? Has your trust ever been betrayed by someone you'd never question? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to know which city you're listening from and if anything like this has happened to you. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this to you. My name is Margaret Williams. I am 71 years old, and until that moment, I thought I knew what family loyalty meant. I was wrong. I had lived in my home on Maple Street for 43 years. My husband Robert and I bought it when Thomas was just a baby. We raised both our children there, Thomas and his younger sister Emily. The mortgage had been paid off for 15 years. It was my sanctuary, filled with memories in every corner, the height markings of growing children still penciled on the kitchen doorframe, the rose garden Robert had planted for our 20th anniversary, the oak tree that now provided shade for the entire backyard. Robert died 6 years ago from a sudden heart attack. I had been devastated but determined to maintain my independence. I stayed in our home, learned to manage the maintenance, and created a new life for myself. I took painting classes at the community center, joined a book club, and volunteered at the local library. My life wasn't what I had planned, but it was good, and it was mine. Thomas lived just 20 minutes away with his wife, Karen, and their 2 teenage children. He visited every Sunday for dinner, helped with household repairs, and gradually took over managing my finances. "Let me handle this, Mom," he would say. "You shouldn't have to worry about these things." I was grateful for his help, especially with taxes and investments that Robert had always managed. Thomas seemed so capable, so concerned for my welfare. When he suggested I add his name to my bank accounts in case of emergency, it had seemed sensible. Emily lived 3 states away. She called weekly and visited when she could, but with 3 young children and a demanding job as a nurse, her time was limited. Still, we were close, and our video calls were a highlight of my week. 3 weeks after I signed those papers for Thomas, I received a certified letter. It wasn't from the bank as I assumed it would be. It was from a property management company I'd never heard of, Westside Holdings LLC. The letter informed me that I was now a tenant in my own home. According to the enclosed documents, I had transferred ownership to Westside Holdings and agreed to a leaseback arrangement. My monthly rent would be $1,200, beginning the following month. I stared at the papers in disbelief. This couldn't be right. There must be some mistake. I called Thomas immediately. "Oh, I meant to talk to you about that," he said, his voice casual, as if we were discussing something trivial like a change in garbage collection days. "It's part of the estate planning we discussed." "We never discussed me selling my house," I said, my voice rising with panic. "Thomas, what is Westside Holdings?" A pause. "It's an LLC I set up. For tax purposes." "Tax purposes?" I repeated, struggling to understand. "What does that mean?" "Mom, it's complicated. The point is this protects your assets. It's better this way." "Better for whom?" I asked, a terrible suspicion forming. "Thomas, I want you to explain exactly what I signed." Another pause, longer this time. "Look, we can talk about this on Sunday when I come over. It's nothing to worry about." But I was already worried, deeply worried. I called Emily that evening and read her the letter. "He did what?" she exploded. "Mom, that's not estate planning, that's theft." "There must be some mistake," I said, still unwilling to believe my son would deliberately deceive me. "The only mistake was trusting Thomas with anything," Emily said bitterly. "I've been telling you for years that he's only interested in your money." This was true. Emily had always been skeptical of Thomas's increasing involvement in my finances. But I had dismissed her concerns as sibling rivalry, the lingering competition between them that had existed since childhood. "Mom, listen to me," Emily continued, her voice now steady and serious. "Don't pay any rent. Don't acknowledge this arrangement in any way. I'm calling my friend Stephanie, she's a lawyer, and I'm coming there next week. True to her word, Emily arrived 5 days later with a formidable-looking woman in tow. Stephanie Klein was a family law attorney who specialized in elder abuse cases. She reviewed the documents I had signed with a deepening frown. "Mrs. Williams, these are deed transfer documents, not refinancing papers. And this," she pointed to one page, "is a lease agreement where you agree to pay rent to Westside Holdings LLC. Do you remember signing this specific document?" I shook my head, tears forming. Thomas just kept pointing to signature lines. He said it was for the refinance. Stephanie exchanged glances with Emily. "This is textbook elder financial abuse. You were deceived into signing documents you didn't understand by someone in a position of trust." "But he's my son," I whispered. "Unfortunately, that makes it worse, not better. In the eyes of the law," Stephanie explained gently, "he exploited a position of trust and familial relationship." Sunday dinner came. Thomas arrived as usual, carrying a bouquet of flowers, something he rarely did. He found not just me in the kitchen, but Emily and Stephanie as well. His face changed when he saw them, the confident smile replaced by wariness. "Emily, what a surprise. I didn't know you were coming to town." "I bet you didn't," Emily replied coldly. "This is Stephanie Klein. She's my attorney." "Your attorney?" Thomas laughed nervously. "What's going on?" "That's what we'd like to know," Stephanie said, placing the deed transfer documents on the table. Mrs. Williams was under the impression she was signing refinancing papers, not transferring her home to your LLC. Thomas's face flushed. "This is a family matter. We don't need lawyers involved." "Actually, we do," I said, finding my voice at last. "Thomas, how could you do this? This is my home." "Mom, you're overreacting. It's still your home. Nothing has changed. This was just to protect your assets from taxes and potential healthcare costs down the road." "By charging her rent for a house she owns outright?" Emily interjected. "How exactly does that protect her?" "The rent goes into an account for her future care," Thomas said defensively. "It's all for her benefit." "An account you control," Emily shot back. Thomas turned to me, ignoring Emily and Stephanie. "Mom, you know I'd never do anything to hurt you. This is all to protect you and your legacy." I wanted to believe him. Part of me still couldn't accept that my son, my own child, would deliberately steal my home. "If that's true," Stephanie said calmly, "then you won't object to transferring the property back to your mother immediately." Thomas's expression hardened. "That's not going to happen. It would defeat the entire purpose of the arrangement." "And what purpose is that exactly?" I asked, my voice stronger now. "To make me a tenant in my own home? To take what your father and I worked our entire lives for?" "You don't understand finance or estate planning," Thomas said dismissively. "Dad always handled these things for you. Now I'm doing the same." "Your father would never have stolen from me," I said, the truth of it hitting me fully for the first time. Thomas wasn't helping me as Robert had. He was exploiting me. "I haven't stolen anything!" Thomas shouted, his composure cracking. "I'm protecting our family assets." "Our family assets?" Emily repeated incredulously. "It's Mom's house, not yours." Thomas stood, gathering his things. "This conversation is over. If you want to pursue this legally, go ahead. But I've done nothing wrong." He turned to me. "Mom, when you calm down and think rationally, you'll understand this is for the best." With that, he walked out, leaving me shaking at my own kitchen table. The following months were a blur of legal meetings, court filings, and devastating revelations. Stephanie helped me file a case to invalidate the transfer based on fraud and undue influence. We also learned that Thomas had been skimming money from my accounts for years, small amounts at first, then increasingly larger sums. Most shocking of all was discovering that Westside Holdings LLC had taken out a substantial equity line of credit against my house. The money, nearly $200,000, had vanished, some into Thomas's personal accounts, some into risky investments that had already lost value. "He's underwater financially," Stephanie explained after investigating further. "His real estate business has been struggling for years. He's been using your money to stay afloat." I felt physically ill. All those Sundays, all those dinners, all those conversations where he assured me everything was fine, all while he was systematically stealing from me. The court case dragged on. Thomas hired an expensive attorney who argued that I had willingly signed the documents, that I was fully aware of what I was doing, and that this was a family arrangement gone sour, not fraud. "How are you holding up?" Emily asked during one of her visits. She had been coming as often as possible, arranging coverage for her shifts at the hospital, leaving her children with her husband. "I feel like such a fool," I admitted. "How did I not see what he was doing?" "Because he's your son and you trusted him," Emily said, squeezing my hand. "That's not foolish, Mom, that's being a parent." 6 months into the legal battle, something unexpected happened. Karen, Thomas's wife, contacted me secretly. We met at a coffee shop 2 towns over, where she wouldn't be recognized. "I didn't know," she said, her eyes red from crying. "I swear I didn't know what Thomas was doing until the lawsuit came. He told me you had decided to downsize and were giving us the house." I believed her. Karen had always been kind to me, bringing the grandchildren for visits, remembering my birthday with thoughtful gifts. "Thomas has changed," she continued. "The business failures, the financial pressure, he's not the man I married. Last month I found out he's gambled away most of our savings." She pulled an envelope from her purse. "These are copies of bank statements, transfer records, everything I could find about what he did with your money and the equity line. I want you to have them." The evidence Karen provided was damning. It showed clear patterns of deception, documented Thomas's financial desperation, and proved he had used my funds for personal expenses, including a luxury car I hadn't known about, and a vacation to Bermuda he had claimed was a business trip. 2 weeks later, Thomas's attorney called Stephanie to discuss a settlement. The terms were better than we had hoped. My house would be returned to me. The equity line would be Thomas's responsibility, but secured only against his portion of any future inheritance, not my property. He would repay the money he had taken from my accounts over a 5-year period. When I asked Stephanie why Thomas had suddenly become willing to settle, she smiled grimly. "Karen filed for divorce yesterday. She's cooperating fully with the prosecution, and there's a possibility of criminal charges for financial elder abuse. He's cutting his losses." The day I received the new deed, restoring my ownership of my home, should have felt triumphant. Instead, it felt hollow. I had my house back, but I had lost my son. Not just to the deception and legal battle, but to the person he had revealed himself to be, someone who would steal from his own mother, who would lie without remorse, who would value money over family. Emily helped me make practical changes. We removed Thomas's name from all my accounts. We set up a proper estate plan with a lawyer we both trusted. We installed security cameras at my house, not because I feared physical harm, but because the violation of my home had left me feeling vulnerable in ways I had never imagined. Thomas made the required payments for the first year, then stopped. Stephanie advised me that pursuing him further would be costly and might yield little result. "He's judgment-proof at this point," she explained. "The divorce left him with almost nothing." I decided to let it go. The house was mine again. The financial loss, while significant, wasn't catastrophic. What could never be recovered was my relationship with my son and, tragically, with my grandchildren. Karen tried to maintain contact, bringing the children for occasional visits, but as they grew older, these became less frequent. Emily stepped in, becoming my rock. She arranged for me to visit her family regularly. Her children called me every week. When a minor stroke last year made living alone temporarily difficult, she rearranged her entire life to stay with me for a month, then helped me interview and hire a part-time companion when I needed one. 3 years after the settlement, I received a letter from Thomas. It wasn't an apology, not really. It was full of justifications and excuses. "I was only trying to protect the family legacy," he wrote. "Things just got out of hand." I didn't respond. There were no words that could bridge the chasm his actions had created. Last month, I finally did something I had been contemplating for years. I redid my will. Thomas is no longer my executor, nor does he have power of attorney. Those responsibilities now belong to Emily. And while I didn't completely disinherit Thomas, I couldn't bring myself to take that final step. His portion is now in a tightly controlled trust that will provide for his children's education, but nothing more. The most significant change, though, is what will happen to my house. Upon my death, it will be sold, and the proceeds will fund a foundation to provide legal assistance to elderly victims of financial abuse. The foundation will be named after Robert, who would have been heartbroken to see what our son became, but who always taught our children to make amends when they caused harm. I still live in my house on Maple Street. The rose garden still blooms each spring, though I need help maintaining it now. The oak tree still shades the backyard where grandchildren Emily's, not Thomas's, play when they visit. The height markings on the kitchen doorframe remain, a bittersweet reminder of the family we once were. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, I sit on my porch and wonder where I went wrong with Thomas. Was it giving him too much? Not enough? Was there a moment when I could have steered him toward a different path? I'll never know. What I do know is this: trust is precious and fragile, especially within families. Once broken, it may never be fully repaired, but life continues, new bonds form. Wounds, if not healed, at least scar over. I am 74 now. I still take my painting classes. I still volunteer at the library. I have built a life that is different from what I imagined, but it is still mine, as is my house. No one will ever take it from me again. "Mom, sign here," my son asked. I signed, and lost the right to my own house. But in the end, I reclaimed not just my property, but my independence, my dignity, and my power to choose who deserves my trust. If you enjoyed my story, please don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss my new life stories. Your support means everything to me and helps me continue sharing these real experiences. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.